I'm going to talk about the misuse of crime data, and I'm going to use one post by Dear Leader Pornstar Humper because it's disgusting now. He is now literally using snuff films, murder porn, to um, carry his false agenda, his angry, nationalistic, racist, homophobic, xenophobic. He hates everybody. The funny thing is, if you actually like watch his True Social, he goes after everybody. Like now he's literally tearing down MAGA itself. He's gone after Tucker Carlson. He's gone after Megyn Kelly. It's going to be minutes before he goes after Betty Johnson. Uh, this guy is grasping at straws so bad right now. So I'm not going to show you the film. It's quite brutal. Even an old cop watching it, I was like, oh god damn, that was bad. I'm not going to put it up here. If you want to go find it, it's up right up on his True Social. It's about 10 posts down from where the real timeline is now. But I'm going to read you what he posted, and I'm going to go in real deep about why he's doing this, what the real crime information is, real crime sources, by the way, not his made up shit in his dementia addled head, whether it's dementia or aphasia. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. That PhD therapist thinks it's both. But I had no idea. I'm not a doctor. Definitely not an elderly doctor, an aging doctor, which is a specific specialty. So let me read you the post here. And it's pretty bad, so bear with me. It's very long. It's very bad, so stick with me for a couple of seconds. We'll get through this here. Here's the actual verbiage of the tweet post that accompanied the snuff film. An illegal alien criminal from Haiti who was released into our country by the worst president in history, crooked Joe Biden. The radical Democrats in Congress just beat an innocent woman to death with a hammer at a gas station in Florida. The video of her brutal slaying is one of the most vicious things you will ever see. This animal is allowed to stay here because the Biden administration granted him and all Haitians temporary protective status. A massively abused and fraudulent program which my administration is working to terminate, but deranged liberal district court judges are standing in our way. This one killing should be enough for these radical judges to stop impeding my administration immigration policies and allow us to end this scam once and for all. To my fellow Republicans, and frankly, all common sense Americans, never forget that Joe Biden and the Democratic Party has turned the United States into America into a dumping ground, allowing tens of millions of criminals, lunatics, and the mentally insane from all over the world to pour into our country, totally unvetted, unchecked, through our wide open borders. I've said it all along. If you import the third world, you become the third world. You become the third world, and it has happened over the 4 years of Democratic control. We are rapidly trying to reverse this decline through deportations, but if the Democrats are ever given another chance at power, they will immediately reopen the border, allow America once to be a safe haven for criminals. Please pray for this innocent woman's family. We will ensure quick and severe justice is served in this case. I don't recommend you watch this tape, but it is so terrible. I felt I had an obligation to put it up so that people could see what Democrats are protecting and want to come to our country. Even now, after all we've been through. Again, viewer discretion is advised, not for children, President Donald J. Trump. Okay, I don't want you to see this, but here it is. Here's the snuff porn I put up just so I could lie to you. Okay, and there's about 10 lies in this very short post. Okay. The biggest lie in this post, all Haitians get TPS, temporary protected status. Not true. Not true. It is not an open door from anybody to Haitian to walk into the country. That is just an abject lie put in there for color and effect. Okay. And I love how he says, oh, it's so bad, you shouldn't watch it. Here it is. Eat it up. Eat it up, MAGA. Okay? Eat it up, MAGA guys who were just in prison for raping children, doing armed robberies, an insurrectionist who was pardoned and ended up getting a life sentence for raping little kids again. Let's break this down. I got a whole research page on this. So let's, the first thing he does is try to turn the one incident, okay, which is, by the way, the victim is also an immigrant. Okay. And it's horrid. Just a walk-up mental case who commits a 187 with a bludgeon. And it's funny how he says he is going to make sure they get severe punishment. It's a state crime. The federal government has nothing to do with this crime. Yeah, Hope says, yes, we need to post all the white nationalist crimes. I'll get there, Hope. Hang on. I have notes. Anybody enjoying happy hour on Friday? Toast? He says, Democrats made America a dumping ground for tens of millions of criminals, lunatics, and the mentally insane. That's just John Birch Society rebooted. That is the Know Nothing movement of the 1920s rebooted. That is the KKK rebooted. That is the CCC, the Concerned Citizens Councils. Okay? The CCC was the suit, tie, and dress version of the KKK in the 50s. And he's claiming that only liberal judges are blocking his immigration policy. No, a judge he put up to the bench has been deciding against him too on this issue. Many, many judges of all flavors and stripes, appointed from everybody from Ronald Reagan forward, has come out against his various immigration shit. So blaming liberal district court federal judges is simply an abject lie for effect. Okay, everything he does is an abject lie for effect. The underlying crime is real. It's awful. A 51-year-old Bangladeshi American woman was murdered at Fort Myers in a bludgeon attack. It is horrible. If you are faint of heart, do not watch this video. Okay, that's your trigger warning. I don't usually use trigger warnings, but even like when I put up the video of Charlie Kirk getting shot in the neck, I warn people, this is gross. This is gross even to me. And I've seen people shot before, and stabbed and beaten half to death and everything else. So he tries to take one incident in Fort Myers, Florida, and tries to use it as a justification for a whole line of things. He's not just trying to reinforce his immigration policy. He's trying to reinforce all his policies and himself in his nationalist persona. He is not a nationalist himself. He's just a self-ingratiated, malignant narcissist. He's just doing whatever he needs to do to maintain power and importance in wealth. Okay, he does not have a political philosophy. He is not right nor left. He's just a psycho, self-ingratiated, malignant narcissist. Okay, but he's trying to take one incident and trying to tell you what the mean is, what the average state is. And that's not how statistics works. If you've watched me for a while, you understand I do data for a living. You may notice some tech books over my shoulder here. Yeah, I do data engineering for a living. I do data science for a living. I work with numbers and statistics and billion rows of data. I can do a billion rows of data over a cup of coffee and an egg sandwich. Okay. This is not how you determine statistics or a statistical outcome or find outliers or anything like that. That's not how you do it. Just getting on there, showing a snuff film and claiming that you have identified all crime, because now it's all the Haitians. Wait a minute. You said it was, and I'm going back all the way to your campaign for your first term. First, you said it was all the Mexicans. Then later on, you went through a whole list of people, including all the Somalis, whether they were in Bangor, Maine, or Minneapolis, Minnesota. Okay. Then it was all the Venezuelans. Okay. If you go early in his life, with the Central Park Five and everything. It was all the blacks. All the blacks quit all the crime. Okay. This is a 40, 50-year thing with him. He literally thinks white people do not commit crime. That's absurd. That's literally absurd. Now, am I guessing it's absurd? No, I don't guess. I'm a data guy. I went and found data. Guess who has data on this? The National Institute of Justice and the conservative think tank, Cato Institute. You see me bring up Cato a lot lately because they're conservative, but they're not ideologues. They're not nationalists. They're not far-right dickheads. Okay? These are like the H.W. Bushites. Okay? Maybe go a little further back. Okay? These aren't nationalists. Okay? These are actual conservatives in the Cato Institute. The National Institute of Justice in a recent research suggests immigrants, including people without legal status, are far less likely to commit crimes than native-born Americans. In a 2026, this year, Cato Institute analysis of 2024 incarceration data, fresh data, my favorite. Okay, so they got some 2024 prison data, and they find exactly what the National Institute of Justice found. They found out that lower incarceration rates for both legal and illegal immigrants compared to native-born Americans. Probably because the immigrants are working their fucking asses off. That's my guess. And I told you this before. I used to work as a peace officer in one of the most immigrant-dense counties in the United States. When you tell me that immigrants commit all the crimes, I think you're a fucking moron who should shut the fuck up. Okay, 90% of our crime were people who are born and raised right where you're standing. Okay. Host says, true. Trump did not believe in the old Republican ideology, but they put him in office, so they own him now. Yes, they are completely responsible. Anybody who signed on to his bullshit, I didn't vote for him once. Like Hillary versus Trump, I voted for Gary Johnson, the governor of New Mexico. Okay, I could easily have voted for Governor Inslee. He's a little more lefty, but my buddy, we're having cocktails before a concert a couple months ago. He's really been reading up on Inslee. Likes a lot of his energy and social safety net stuff. So I'm like, okay, I could look at Inslee. Sure, okay, we can do that. But there's no way in hell I was voting for Hillbot, and there was no way in hell I was voting for Trump. So I wrote in Gary Johnson. Trump's line that Biden gave TPS, temporary protective status, to all Haitians is false. The 2024 Haiti redesignation required eligibility rules, including contiguous U.S. residents since June 3rd, 2024, and a physical presence since August 4th, 2024. It was not a blanket grant for entry to every Haitian person. That is just a complete lie. And again, this is all sourced through Federal Bureau of Investigation, National Institutes of Health, AP News, a blog called Trump's Truth with a lot of sites to Reuters and AP and major newspapers. And basically everything he brings up in his little post is intentionally bullshit. Okay. When he talks about crime, in his mind, crime is at an all-time high. As long as I pardon the 1,600 people who levied war against the United States in the insurrection at the Capitol, then crime is at an all-time high. Not the white people who rioted and tried to take over the government. No. Not the people he pardoned and did ugly things after the pardon. No. Crime is all-time high. But is that real? No. There's a agency that's within the FBI. It's called the Bureau of Justice Statistics, FBI/BJS. Okay. I used to have an API key to them. I used to do a lot of especially when I was learning data engineering. It was a great data set to learn on, to how to parse data, clean data, normalize data, all that kind of good stuff, and then do all the statistical testing on it. So I had census keys, Bureau of Justice Statistics, Social Security, and I think BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics. I should refresh those keys and get back in, start playing with data again. So let's go to the FBI data. This comes direct from the FBI and the BJS. The 2024 national data shows that violent crime is down 4.5% from 2023. If crime is going down by 4.5%, and we have at least a dozen big cities reporting 10 or 20-year lows, one city reporting 30-year lows. Hello, New York City. Okay. Crime is going down. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I've talked about this before. The reason the crime was so bad in the 70s and how it's tapered off worldwide since the 70s, we got lead out of the environment. We were creating lead morons. We were doing neurological damage to millions of people, and that was causing crime. That was a precursor to crime. Other things is like not controlling diseases, like syphilis that rots your brain. Okay, anything that damages the brain, whether it's metal poisoning or a bacterium or virus, that could be an impact to crime, we found out. In lead, it's worldwide. We took lead out of the environment, crime fell worldwide. Every industrial nation, when we took out lead, all the rates fell. Okay. If you want to see high crime per capita, you got to go back to the 1970s and that bump in the early 90s. Try to say crime is at an all-time high today is just ludicrous. It's a lie if you know the crime data. If you know the crime stats, you know the crime history, you know the crime data, abject lie. Okay. And this is some really great news. Murder is down almost 15%, 14.9%. Robbery is down 8.9%. Rape is down 5.2%. Aggravated assault is down 3%. Okay. When he adds the graphic imagery, when he calls people animals, when he says the threat is coming from outside, okay? It's like the movie, that teenage Scream movie. The call is coming from inside the house. Yeah, it is. It is. Hope says, wow, that's so interesting about the lead. Yeah, when I researched that, I was blown away because America, the data is clear as hell that taking lead out had an effect. What verifies it is when you look at the other countries' data. All the data went downhill. The graph lines all had a negative curve to them. Every single country that cleaned up their environment, it happened. Stark data. This post has nothing to do with policing. Okay, yeah, Sergeant Military Police, retired civilian peace officer. Okay, this is not how you talk about or report on crime. You don't take one little tidbit, put a snuff film in your post, and go, look, I know who all the criminals are. That's not criminal psychology. That's not criminology, the science of studying crime. Okay, this is not criminal analysis. This is not criminal statistics. None of it. It's just him going off as a racist xenophobe with aging problems. Okay. And it's not sober. It's not a sober public review of what the hell is happening in America. And this is what pisses off the nationalists. Okay. Honestly, the goals of the conservatives and the moderate Democrats and even some of the liberals, when they passed the Cops Act under Clinton, they just wanted more command presence. They didn't want a militarized force out in the street. They just wanted more available cars because, drive-by shootings were a fucking pain in the ass back then. I mean, a 3-day holiday weekend, just on our side of the county, I've told you this before, we could have 24 drive-by shootings in a long weekend. Okay, so when they signed that bill and we got more money and we got to put another person through the academy extra that year, we were a small department, so it's not like we got 10 extra people. We were, I think, only at 56 sworn in our city, small coastal city, so we got to send an additional body to the academy, and hopefully we get a good cop through the academy, the FDO program, the year on probation, all that, and hopefully we get a tenured cop out of that. The whole idea was not to go, oh my God, this is this group's problem or that's group problem. No, we were having a short-term bump in the crime data, And the police managers and the actual criminologist and the cops think tank in Washington, D.C. I wanted to apply for that think tank, but you have to have an advanced degree to join. I don't have an advanced degree. But even the think tank in Washington was saying, like, this is a not enough cops on the street problem. And when we put more cops on the street, it had an effect, especially to those spontaneous hyper-violent crimes like drive-bys, like street corner shootings and that sort of stuff. When you can send 8 patrol cars from 3 cities instead of 3 cars from 1 city, the gang members and the other criminals know that we're going to show up in force. And things calmed down quickly once we had more people on the street. There was a big delay from funding to actuality, but you saw when, 2.5 years down the road, you started to see the effect. You saw it in the data too. We saw it on the street, most definitely. Now let's break this down, because we need to have a plain English dissection of what the hell he is doing here. Thank you for your insights. Well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. The thing he did here, he starts with a very, very real murder. Okay. And then instantly turns it into what? Kabuki political theater. Okay. He's the criminal lashing out about crime. He's a convicted criminal in court, business fraud. He's an adjudicated rapist. The judge clarified it. The judge said, yes, he raped E.G. and Carol. That's why there was a settlement. New York Times reporting. Okay. And we all know that he and the rest of the Epstein class are total disgusting degenerates who should all be in prison for the rest of their lives. Okay. So criminal, known felon complains about crime. That's your first hook. That we have a suspect in custody. It really was a Haitian dude. All that, because you can't just, like, if he would have just made up a crime and started talking like that, everybody known it was time. It was going to be bedtime for Bonzo. Okay, why don't you go into the nursing home, sit down, and watch some TV? Okay, but this is actually a real crime with a real suspect, with a real victim. So he knows what he's doing. Okay, or Stephen Miller knows what he's doing. Now, I do not doubt there's sycophants and minions around the sitting president of the United States, literally feeding into his already horrific racism and xenophobia and amping up shit like this. Okay. One of the psychological tricks he's using in this post, and this was why I think he had help writing this post. It was in his voice, but oh, sir, you should put this in. You should massage it this way. He individualizes the horror, the poor victim, but then collectivizes the blame. I blame all these people. He doesn't blame the suspect. He blames Biden. He blamed Democrats. He blamed liberals. He blamed the mythological liberal district federal judge. Now, suddenly all federal district judges are liberals? No, they're not. It's like he keeps saying that the West Coast appellate court, the one ran with the old German conservative dude running that appellate court. Oh, that's just a liberal appellate court. Have you seen who runs the court? It's an old German dude who's an old conservative. Christ. He immediately blames. He accuses one man, then broadens it quickly to show you that he's the defender against the horde, because the horde is Biden, Democrats, Congress, migrants, and effectively anybody outside the borders of the United States. He's Supermaning himself. Did you get that part? That hit me quickly. I'm protecting you from the invading hordes. That's a superiority complex playing off in his head. He literally thinks he's some sort of king, knight who has become a king, and he is the defender of the realm. It's not the army. It's not the heavy pipe hitters and the Rangers. It isn't the super smart Green Berets. It isn't the wickedly smart intelligence officers and warrant officers out there that are finding the data to go do something about. Okay, it's him protecting the rail. Okay, he's on the castle wall. He's protecting the rail personally. That's what he's trying to convey here psychologically. Okay, and that's nutty and dangerous. Okay. Now, to shut down any critical thinking about his post, okay, he uses dehumanization as a strategic way to shut down critical thought. He uses one of his favorite words. His favorite word is not tariff, it's animal. He loves referring to other human beings as animals. Okay. The dehumanization language is just the he's trying to create the herd fight. I'm controlling this herd. That herd is a threat. That group's a threat. You know, I mean, this is base Frank van der Waal stuff. You know, the chimp pack mentality. Okay, he's exercising that to execute another dehumanization of other people. The tens of millions of immigrants coming in, that's an overwhelm line. That's not a factual line. It's not meant to inform. It's meant to overwhelm. Oh my God, tens of millions have got in? No, the number's like 2.3 million. Okay. And given our border structure, if you think that number could be zero, you're literally insane. You're literally a gullible fool. Crime will never hit zero. Immigration will never hit zero. Okay. The third world line is just classic. All the groups I talked about, the Know Nothing movement, the Klan, the CCC, the John Birch Society, MAGA, they have to racial code everything. Okay, it's white versus not white. And it may surprise you, and I can do a separate video about the old school. The real number is 2.3 million over a period. There was a lot of refugee activity in that period, and that did actually cause a bump of illegal immigration in the country. Okay, but even with that bump, Cato Institute's most recent data from 2024 shows there's still less crime from even the illegal immigrant community than there is into the native-born community. Even that bump didn't change the crime statistics and the impact of incarceration. You're very welcome. So the 10 million, the third world, he's trying to frame it as an invasion. What happens when you put it against the real data? And again, this is National Institute of Justice and the Bureau of Justice Statistics, Cato Institute, the Brookings Institute, and many other sources all have this data. You can look it up. It's not that hard. Okay, it's just a broad, empty claim for the purpose of being a broad, empty claim that supports his xenophobia. Okay, because the national crime data from 2024 shows violent crime is down 4.5%. Murder is down 14.9% from 2023. And yes, was there a crime bump during the COVID lockdowns? Absolutely, yes. And you saw it everywhere. Every single industrialized country, including the peaceful ones, had crime bumps upward during the lockdowns. We don't do well as rats in a cage. Okay, and I know this is true because one of the biggest calming mechanisms we would use in a domestic violence thing is telling the dude, if he's really walked up, why don't you take a walk to the street corner with me? Am I under arrest? No, this is an argument. As far as I know, this is just a peace disturbance. This is just an argument. Nobody got hit. Nobody's bleeding, right? Nobody's injured. No. Both said no. Okay, but you're just both angry. Why don't you just take a walk to the street corner with me? Let's talk. And it is amazing how many times literally walking a couple hundred feet and back to the front door would calm an angry man. Okay. His TPS point is bullshit. We did not blanket grant Haitians entry. They don't have a fast lane highway. We didn't build a bridge from Haiti to fucking Key West and said, you Haitian, you in for free. You Haitian, you in for free. We didn't do that. We did not do that. Okay. There were refugees from political problems and asylum seekers from a disaster. They got special protection status that has been backed up by the courts. Okay. And again, not every federal district judge is a liberal. That's nonsense. And he also put a hidden message. There was a big diatribe that was written in between the lines in this post. He's attacking the idea that justice's due process, legal limits should not constrain his and his only executive power. Of course, the Obama, Biden, if Hillbot made it in or Kamala made it in, they get restrained by the courts, not King Donnie. Okay, they're very specific about this in interviews about whose presidential authority should be unrestrained. Okay, oh, here comes the rain again. Here comes the rain again. Annie Lennox, what a legend. Oh, I love her. But boy, is it raining again, and we need it. The mountains are going to get a blizzard for the whole weekend, but we need it. Now we have to, why did he do this? Why did he post this post the way he posted it? Because it works. Remember, Jedi mind tricks only work on the stupid. This was the dark side of the Force. This was the Sith using a mind trick. Okay. He wants you to have grief for the victim. Okay. But it's in a totally nefarious way. It's not the way we express grief. You know, your neighbor dies of cancer, you know, and you go to put your condolences out to the family and the husband. You know, you're expressing true grief. You've lost a friend. They've lost a family member. Okay. You know, you should have grief for the poor victim of a very horrific violent crime. Okay. Should you be disgusted at the violence? Yes, but we should be disgusted at all violence. I've always been disgusted by the violence. I've never liked to see this stuff go down. But what he does is he puts a third little nugget onto the molecule. He's building a molecule here. He puts in an atom of grief. He puts in an atom of disgust. And then he's got to put that big, heavy atom of fear. Be scared of the people, even though crime is way the fuck down. Murder down nearly 15 points, 14.9%. From verified sources, real data. Okay. But he wants you to be fearful of crime. And he will magically tell you that he can eliminate crime as a convicted felon, an adjudicated rapist, and a suspected pedophile. Now, if Trump really wants to protect America from crime, maybe he shouldn't have hired Robert Morris as his spiritual advisor in his first term. If you hadn't read, Robert Morris was on the Evangelical Advisory Board under Trump's administration. Yes, we had religious boards, which he continues to do in this administration. Okay. Trump personally announced the creation of the board and that Robert Morris was going to be on that board. Robert Morris is a big guy in the evangelical community. Okay. Well, in 2024, Robert Morris had to resign as the leader of the Gateway Church because his allegations became public. The church first admitted there was inappropriate sexual behavior when a girl was 12. It ended up being child rape. Now, unfortunately, he only went to jail for 6 months. It's an old crime, yes, but I don't know where the fuck the 6 months only came from. That was a horrible sentence. Robert Morris raped a 12-year-old. Robert Morris was a personal and spiritual advisor to a sitting president of the United States of America. All crime is, depending on when he's pissed at whom and who he's trying to propagandize and disinform against, all the Mexicans commit the crime. All the Venezuelans commit the crime. All the Somalians commit the crime. All the Haitians commit the crime. What is he really saying? All the blacks commit the crimes. All the non-whites commit the crimes. Robert Morris is a white evangelical leader of one of the largest evangelical churches, or was a leader of the evangelical church, before he went to prison for child rape. How are you going to solve that crime there, Donnie? When you have ICE go after the Haitians, how do you stop Robert Morris from raping another 12-year-old girl? It gets worse. Trump called the insurrectionists, those who levied war against the United States of America and committed the crime of sedition, which was organized, and I suspect very highly, that it was financed by Trump and his entire inner circle. Okay. He called the insurrectionists, the January 6th defendants, all 1,500 of them, including the ones that were convicted of aggravated battery against a peace officer. He loves the police. Well, I think he has a fetish about watching the police get beaten. I think he actually gets off on the idea of other people getting harmed. I think he's a actual true, not just a malignant narcissist. I think he's also a true sadist. He called his insurrectionist victims, political prisoners, and hostages. So he pardoned all of them, 1,580 people. Now, one after another is going back to prison. Insurrectionists who were pardoned by Trump, called victims, political prisoners, and hostages, are going back to prison for horrid crimes. Just as bad crimes as the snuff porn he put up to make his different disinformation point. Theodore Middendorf had already pled guilty in Illinois to predatory criminal sexually assault of a child and was serving a 19-year sentence. This comes from a House Judiciary Democratic staff report. It says Casey Hawkins had a prior forcible rape conviction. Got a pardon anyways. Theodore Middendorf had already pled guilty to predatory criminal sexual assault of a child and was serving a 19-year sentence. Got a pardon. Andrew Taki, outstanding charges for online solicitation of a minor when Trump pardoned him. Yeah. Keep an eye on Denver. He's calling shit out. He's been one of the most vocal people out there. And for some reason, I was suspicious of the guy when he was a politician. But he's another guy that I may still not completely like. But I think he's doing good work because somebody has to stop Dear Leader Porn Star Humper, the Epstein class, and Dear Leader's street gang. Okay, somebody's got to stand up. And he's one of the guys standing up. So good job. That was before. Those was just a quick summary, and there's many other others that had crimes already on the records before they were pardoned. After they were pardoned, it gets even worse. One guy got clemency, John Banalos. Sorry if I'm fucking his name up totally. Whose January 6th case was wiped away by the mass clemency, was later arrested for aggravated kidnapping usually means kidnapping with a gun. Aggravated sexual assault in Utah. Oh, if you got arrested for 2 aggravated felonies in Utah, you ain't never seeing the light of day again. I mean, California will go mental on you for sure. We love stacking charges. Judges here hand out 190 years, 100 years for breakfast. They don't give a shit. Okay. Utah? Fucking Utah? Yeah, that's one place I don't want to get caught committing a crime. They still hang people, I think. 33 of the January 6th defendants were rearrested, charged, and sentenced for other crimes. 4 had allegedly reoffended after receiving their pardons. 6 faced child sex crime charges. 2 faced rape charges. But he thinks all the crime today is caused by, after saying it was all these other groups, now it's the Haitians committing all the crimes, because he saw one video and he turned that one video of evidence to a specific crime, not a crime trend. Okay, he turned that into snuff porn. Online snuff porn. Okay, the stuff Congress says we should ban. Like, they don't like anything on motherless. There's a double standard here that's glaring. It should be obvious to everybody. Why don't more people don't get it? I don't know, but you know. And here's the crescendo. Here's the one that really, really, really bugs me. Once you've been up against a real hardcore, they're all hardcore criminals, but there's hardcore criminals and there's hardcore sexual offenders. The real twisted fucks. Okay. This guy got a pardon. Andrew Paul Johnson of Florida was pardoned on January 6th defendant, pardoned in that same mass pardon. Has been convicted in Florida on a list of offenses under Florida state statutes, which he cannot be pardoned for. He was sentenced to life in prison plus many years. He was convicted on 2 counts of lewd and lascivious molestation of a child and 1 count of electronically transmitting harmful material to a minor. That's a CSAM charge. He didn't get that. He was pardoned, unquestioned, pardoned by Dear Leader Pornstar Humper. Convicted felon, adjudicated rapist, suspected pedophile, member of the Epstein class. Are you getting the fucking con, America? I mean, now think about why he needed a snuff film as a distraction. Well, I just had the very fortunate afternoon of seeing my in-laws and seeing my father-in-law. I asked the command sergeant major, I go, it's amazing how we can start a conflict and lose it in less than 45 days. And he just was like, they have no idea what they're doing. And he was just like shaking his head in disgust when he said it. He goes, they have no idea what they're doing. And he goes, blowing stuff up is fun. It's not a strategy. And this guy's blown up a lot. So yeah, he's getting his head handed to him with Iran, and it's not just the military whack-a-mole they're playing. That's not a political or strategic victory. When you see people like John Cipher, the former CIA manager or high up, whatever you want to call him, yeah, he was a big guy in the CIA. He said, yeah, that's not a strategic or whacking X number of targets is not a political or a strategic win. There's no victory here. It's defeat. Okay. Command Sergeant Major basically said the same thing. Ben Hodges, 4-star general, retired, said the same thing. General Mark Hertling is just flabbergasted. Like, this is not a purposed military campaign. Okay, I mean, I know Hegseth thinks he is the living embodiment of Patton, but he's the opposite of that. He's a bro douchebag with an ideological bent who thinks hitting targets and showing videos of hitting targets like this is Call of fucking Duty Iran, is creating a peaceful environment. Iran effectively controls the Strait tonight. How's that a win? Iran is making money off of now unsanctioned oil. How is that a win? Iran has a toll booth. How's that a win? Okay. What is the downstream impact of Iran? I'm seeing farmers left and right. I just saw on the Contrarian, I think it was. I think he's the dude in charge, the president of the Black Farmers Association. He's like, you understand there's not just a diesel price problem, there's a fertilizer problem too. There's a phosphorus problem too. Okay, we can't get all our components, all our supply chain and logistical components to the farm. There won't be crops planted. And he starts talking about food shortages. You think, and Bessett, that dork, was on. I think it was Bessett, the round-faced dude with the glasses, who's always laughing. Oh God, he drives me fucking crazy. And he's one of the guys that shouldn't be knowing what the fuck he's doing, and doesn't sound like it when he speaks in public. He always looks like he's had too much cocaine or not enough cocaine. It's hard to tell. But he's like, whoa, the price of eggs are falling. Price of eggs are falling because the poultry cull is stopped because of the bird flu outbreak, and poultry stock is back up. Therefore, egg production is re-increased, and more supply is hitting the store. It's simple supply and demand. Don't tell me the president's sitting there going, magic wand, I'm Harry Potter on eggs. Fuck you, shut up. Jesus, the reductive bullshit you sell on Fox News. Yeah, seriously, I'm not kidding. If somebody in your family is watching that shit, just, parental control that channel. Oh, it looks like they're in a beef about billing. They have to pay license and stuff to rebroadcast them. Maybe, Fox News got mad at your cable TV company. Oh, don't worry, it'll come back in a couple of weeks. And hopefully, in the meantime, they'll shift over to something more sane. I made a point to know who my father-in-law was watching his evening news for. It was Lester Holt. So I'm like, okay, a good middle of the road guy. Okay, great. You're fine. Rock and roll, Command Sergeant Major. Rock and roll. And when Shep Smith used to do the noontime news, I used to watch Fox News at noon because Shep was a legitimate reporter. Okay. Yeah, I know he's conservative, but he's not an idiot. He's actually a really, really smart guy. And his show was just a mainstream news show. Okay. Once I think the second Shep Smith left, I haven't ever turned on Fox News again. The only reason I'll watch it is to watch some of the dipshittery that goes on, like in the shorts or what I see other people commenting on YouTube. I don't watch any cable TV news anymore. But it's this, that's all like the people ending up on Substack here, the big TV news reporters and journalists and the newspaper opinion writers. Scott, he had a huge landing. Mona Sharon, Jennifer Rubin, a whole bunch of people have swung away from traditional media and ended up on the independent side here. And I think that's one of the best things that's happened in, 25 years. I think it's awesome that so many voices are here. Even if I don't agree with a lot of what you're saying, I'd rather you say it as an independent mind, not as an agenda on a channel, whatever that agenda may be. including, a Z-axis, not just left and right, conservative, liberal, but, an economic axis. Like if you're owned by General Electric, that's your real parent corporation that owns your umbrella company, that owns your parent company, that owns your station, da 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 da. When they have a corporate angle, especially when that is a corporatist or corporate socialist angle, yeah, that's an angle I'm not interested in hearing. Okay. No, because fuel prices are high, we should not be bailing out farmers, because most of that bailout will go to large, publicly traded, institutionally owned mega farms, not who you think as a family farmer. Okay. So that's like, realize when you like Fox Business News, they're about making you believe the stock market is the economy. The stock market's a huge component of the economy, sure, but it's not the economy. Okay. There's a tidal wave of bad economic things that are coming. How does he respond? Snuff film. Is that rational? Anyone? Is that rational? You got to be kidding me. And can you imagine Hope says the snuff video probably does work twofold, scaring some of both parties, very true, and exciting the MAGA base. Yes, because their illogical belief was just reinforced. That's why they absolutely love it. Because I can show you hard data from conservative Cato that shows your perceptions of crime are total bullshit. But they see this one snuff film, they get 100% reinforcement regardless of the data. What was the Netflix movie? Don't Look Up. It's one of those situations. And conservatives used to love data. The only data the conservatives love now is the stock market data and the data they get inside of a non-public meeting that gives them clues how the markets are going to shift. Somebody's playing, and this is another tidal wave coming against dear leader himself. He's not going to be in power forever, and his kids don't have presidential immunity. Somebody very, very close to the administration and multiple players within that orbit are playing every single fucking market out there. And I mean every single one. They're playing equities, they're playing bonds, they're playing insurance, they're playing futures, they're playing shorts, they're playing crypto, they're playing the predictive markets. Somebody is nailing the predictive markets better than Nancy Pelosi can trade stock or Dianne Feinstein. Somebody's making buku money in the prediction markets. Okay, that tidal wave's coming too. Okay. We are running out of power. Electricity. Okay. Local generation and AI data centers, not the answer. A big part of the answer, that top 25% I've been talking about, that's rooftop solar, windmills, micro wind at night to just run your night lights and your aquarium filter and stuff I have to run at night, your refrigerator overnight. Local generation, ranch wind, big wind, solar panels everywhere. What do we need to go back to? We need to rethink. He keeps saying coal. Coal's not an answer. Okay. It's better that we build a nuclear power plant than build 10, 15 coal plants. By far. Like I could do in a whole 2 hours just on how it's so much better to build a nuclear power plant. We're dragging our feet across the board on anything that actually makes America great again. A better energy policy, a better power policy. Okay. It's not just the power plants. We need to rebuild the grid. We need a smart grid. Okay. And we need even smarter transformers in the neighborhoods that can deal with how, like today, we had bright sun. I was generating even what is it, April 10th now? I think I was generating almost 6 kilowatts today, this early in the year, just before noon. And all of a sudden it started raining. Of course, that fell to 1.5 kilowatt hours. Okay. The transformers and neighborhood batteries should be able to balance out how we're shifting because of cloud cover, wind, Because I say now, my neighborhood on the hill in sunny coast, California, half, maybe 55, 58% of all the homes now have solar. And probably 15% of the homes have batteries or natural gas backups when the power goes down. Okay. He hates solar. He hates wind. He's dragging his feet on nuclear. How is that setting us up for this industrial future he wants? He wants all this manufacturing to come back to America. Yet nothing he's doing is really reinforcing it outside a couple of use cases. Okay. And the way that's being achieved is like some of the chip manufacturing. That's too East Germany for me. Okay. I don't mind the plants being built here. I don't know how they're being built at the bottom of the Colorado River where they're already running out of water. One of the biggest things you need is ultra clean water to make chips. That's kind of confusing to me, but I'm glad we're making chips. Okay. I don't think that's a bad thing, but we're not going to make all the chips. That's ridiculous thinking. Make all the chips we use in America? That's impossible. It's like market impossible and physically impossible. And we're talking to like what's big about the new chip plants. Those are the really good chips. Like those are the chips that go into my ultra elite RTX 5090 video card, or the A100s or the H100 video cards, the GPUs, graphic processing units. Okay. We already made the stuff that's in your car. The big nanometer stuff, the above 7-10 nanometer now, the stuff that doesn't have to be that fast. The console control and your electronic display in your car. Okay, that's not a top end chip. That's a medium chip. Yeah, we already made those. Okay, but we're still not going to make all of them. Okay, none of these AI data centers are hiring the people that the initial press release claimed. And if you've actually, I work in data centers. That's why I've been doing that for 25 years. I mean, physically, I still have clients that call me, hey, can you run down to the data center? We need something, hands-on fix. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll jump in the car and I'll be there in a couple of hours. Okay. So yeah, I have a badge and get into the huge warehouse of computers, find my client's cage, open it up, pull the server. Oh yeah. We burnt out a memory chip. Yeah, it's toast. Okay. We'll fix it. Building new data centers. We'll always be building new data centers. Okay. The problem per se isn't the data centers, investments the way you fund them maybe, but the real problem is you don't have a power policy, and Trump is not leading on a power policy that supports more manufacturing and more data centers. Okay, because one way or another, we're going to end up with both. Okay, and it's not like we haven't made any inroads to do anything, but what I'm saying is if there was real leadership on power as a policy, we'd be doing like, okay, we did a moonshot again. Kind of cool. Okay, it's kind of Apollo 8 in 1968 again, but a little bit further. Okay, but it's testing new gear and all that kind of stuff. Okay, and you see my NASA T-shirt. I wear it all the time. I love NASA. I think astronauts are super cool. Okay, we did another. We should be having a moonshot on power in this country. Okay, like you can't build a new home in a big sections and swath of the country where we know solar works, and where you think it works and it doesn't work, that's something I had to learn about. It works a lot further north than a lot of people think, but the further south you go, oh hell yeah, And we don't need to cover cornfields. We don't need to take over the desert with solar panels. We never did. All we need to do is do rooftop solar on residential and commercial, and you'll basically power everything, including if we switch all to electric vehicles. If we back that up with smart, baseline power policies, we'd be there. Is anybody leading on that right now? No, we're fighting a war with Iran instead, and we're losing. Now, do you see the reason the snuff film is up? How Haitians now are Haitians. So I take it the Somalis are in the clear now, right? They all good? Oh yeah, I've seen like 5 or 6 AI generations. I follow hashtag prop share on Blue Sky. I run AI environments locally on this mega workstation in my server downstairs. And one of the things I do is generative art, and I have a whole page of it. You can look for NutBallCop on Blue Sky. There's a whole bunch of my AI art plus my bounces from this medium and all that kind of stuff. And I saw like 10 Epstein variations with Iran, the moon, Melania. Melania is standing behind the lectern. Did you see that one? Is she standing on a box of Epstein files? So she fits on the lectern. And then I saw the crashed F-15 in the desert with all the Iranians standing around the Iranian troops, and the whole back of the plane is filled with Epstein files. I saw that one. I saw the astronauts burying it on the moon. I saw the astronauts throwing it out the window of the Artemis. Yeah. Okay, but yeah, just realize why the whole thing and why I went so down the road rabbit hole on the snuff film was just don't react. Think about what the hell is going on right now. And so when people bring it up in conversation, you can go, well, you can use a very sane review of that post and go, what? And you can start asking intuitive questions, so they really have to explain why they were attached to this snuff film post, and break it down, help them break it down in their own head. Okay. Like, okay, really? How many different groups of non-white people is he going to go through and blame for all of the crime? And ask investigative questions. Why is he blaming all the crime now on 5 different groups of people? All of them happen to be not white. How can 5 groups all be creating all of the crime? How is that logically possible? When because this is a denial factor that's used as a retort. Sometimes it's a bot retort, like on my YouTube bounces over there. The stupidest comments are always on YouTube. People engage more on Substack and Blue Sky. Blue Sky is actually quite friendly, especially for what I mainly use it for. But YouTube, you can get some really patented, like de facto prop response, I call them, or prop retorts. If I've said it on a video like tonight, like I've got the whole sidebar open where it says, show me every source we looked up to do this. Okay. And when you look down this thing, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting my information from verified, legal, honest, and reputable sources. Okay. Any blog that is doing it, I'm looking at the hyperlinks, hitting them into a new tab and going, okay, where are you getting this information? Unfortunately, unfortunately, my MAGA cousin is an attorney and stubborn. All attorneys are stubborn. Yes, yes. I have several friends who are attorneys. I try not to hold that against them. Well, if he's an attorney, ask him what can he justify as a legal defense for murdering nonviolent protesters in the streets. Because Santos, Good, and Preety all seem to be nonviolent resistors who were literally gunned down. And then they lied. I mean, and that's another question. Okay, you're an attorney. If you had a witness on the stand that said, "Hey, that guy tried to," because now the con artists of the right, they're now mixing all three stories together to try to create a supervillain. Alex Preety tried to run over the ICE agent. No, he was standing there on the sidewalk. It was Renee Good who was doing the U-turn. And really, and even I'm looking at this as a retired cop. Okay, was she really a threat in that vehicle if you could have just stepped over one step and gone stop? Okay, if she didn't stop, you turn your lights on and you follow her until she pulls over. You know, normal cop stuff. Blowing her fucking head off for making a U-turn. Okay, they said she tried to run him down. The videotape completely shows that that's not true. How would you defend your client over the reality of the video? And then how do you, as a person, as my cousin, how do you personally show moral value when they lied and now are super lying by amalgamating all the stories and trying to create a supervillain? Why is that happening? You know, the tactics that are being used by ICE are de facto ridiculous. If that ever showed up on a VHS tape in my day and shown to my lieutenant or captain, most of that crap would have got me in trouble, if not fired. Because about 99.5% of your arrests should be nothing more than a simple wrist lock or arm bar and a walk to the car, even if they're drunk in a bar. I'm not a very, very big guy. I was very strong back in the day because I worked out constantly. But even a guy bigger than me by several inches, I had no problem just putting him in a wrist lock and saying, walk this way. Walk this way. Talk this way. I mean, there is so much going wrong for Trump. If you're still siding with him, because it's amazing. Did you see? You should probably say Biden and hang up on me. They call me back like nothing was said. That's funny. Yeah, but Biden doesn't work anymore. We're in the second year here. I think the Biden is the dumbest of the exercise right now. Okay. And like all my friends, we were all sitting around one night, we're having beers, and we're all like middle of the road. We're like, it was all my hockey buds. We was actually playing the same team years ago. And we're sitting around, this is a year or so ago, and we're like, hey, you know, what about this? What about this? And maybe she's more liberal. Maybe he's a little more old school, you know, conservative. You know, I'm me. I'm the groovy libertarian. But we're all going like, when it comes to like what's right, what's wrong, we all landed at the same place. And when you ask us, like, are you like a huge fan of Biden? And I was like, I'm not saying he's terrible, but I'm not going to like do a backflip. I'm not exactly that happy. I mean, the banks are still being banks. Predatory loans are still happening. You know, consumer fraud is still a thing. Energy prices are on the wrong trajectory. Um, we seem to be chipping away at privacy. That's why I don't really give an A to anybody that's been in office, because nobody really tried to really do a big change, at least in the right direction. Reagan tried to change. That didn't go well. He went the wrong direction, toward corporate socialism. The last guy to actually try to make a big change and hang his hat on it, it's got to be one of the toughest guys in American history, Lyndon Baines Johnson. I mean, that took a set of brass Weibos to do what he did at the time he did it. And he was like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm about. This is what my presidency is going to be about. Okay. I haven't seen that in anybody since. From all my reading about all the presidents before or after, the founding fathers, whatever, we have been in a lull. And I'm not saying like Jimmy Carter didn't have some great ideas and he wasn't a great guy. Huge Jimmy Carter and Rosalind Carter fan here. Like, wait, I think they're good people, no doubt. Jimmy just still had problems when he was president. There's just no way around that. Did he have some great ideas? Oh yeah, hell yeah. Okay. I loved when he put the solar panels on top of the White House. Now, how shitty those panels were back then is actually hilarious. They were only like 3% efficient or whatever. Mine are like 21. And I think he was a super smart guy, and that there's evidence for that. I mean, you can't be a nuclear engineer in the Navy and be a dummy. That's incongruent. But apparently you can go to Wharton and be a moron. That's something I was surprised to learn in this era of fucked upness. But we need somebody that's going to take a stance on something. And I think that something has to be economic, and economic for the middle class, because you're wiping us out. Inflation why the snuff film? Inflation last month, 3.3%. That's not good. That is not good. Okay, that is seriously bad news. And if crops don't get in the ground, like I was just speaking to you a couple of minutes ago, you think vegetables and fruit and beef and chicken are expensive now? Oh, wait when there's a supply shortage on feedstock. Because remember, the farmers feed us and they feed our food. Okay. Luckily, they got some surplus because of the tariffs. There's a lot of farm stock sitting underneath tarps with nitrogen and carbon dioxide filled tarps, so they can keep it fresh and sell it later. So there's some oversupply that will help the farmers here for sure. Okay, but long term, this is not a good outlook, especially if they're really hindered on the real cost availability. How much I can afford to actually put in the ground and not lose my ass and lose the whole farm. That's the gamble every year. It's like one of the big wineries up north when the fires hit. They were long on debt. The fire hit and they had to sell. Okay, so this, you look at what's coming. What's in the news. Iran is totally screwed up, and anybody reasonable, my Canadian military friend, my Australian friends, I'm talking like everybody I know who had military experience except one, are all going, this makes absolutely no sense. This is target practice. And the weird thing last week is everybody in my circle, we all started talking about is like, this story about the pilot being rescued? You know, that story is really funky, right? And I'm not trying to launch any conspiracy theories. We're like trying to like really look at this and go, why did hundreds of people go out to get a pilot? And why was an O-6 flying up front? I get an O-6 being in the air as the air boss, okay? Because it could be an O-6, it could be an O-7. And they'll get up and they'll be high in the canopy, for direct view of the battlefield. They're, playing air pattern. Mike Horner did that in Iraq. He was up in the air as a general. He was in the canopy. But why was an O-6 front in Iran? There are other assets that can go deep. We don't need somebody who ends up being like the Gene Hackman movie. What was the name of the movie? Where's the pilot? He gets shot down and needs to be rescued, and he's the intelligence guy that knows everything. It's like one of those. It's like, why would this go down? Why would we send so many? SOAR doesn't operate. Special Operations Air Rescue usually goes out pretty light unless there's like an absolutely major problem. They're usually in and out. They got a few, depends who's sitting around when it all goes down. They may ask for Marine RDF to load up on another helicopter. If you got a Ranger element on standby, maybe they're the QRF in case they get in trouble. Like when they rescued Grady out of Yugoslavia, the story that I had heard that SOAR was like, okay, we can go in light, but the Serbs are still Serbs. They're going to shoot at us, even if we have the rescue symbol on. They're going to take a shot at us. Okay. So they sent up some Marines with them, and the Marines were basically the covering fire as SOAR found Grady and got him on the helicopter. SOAR is Air Force Special Operations. They're specially trained to go in and get downed airmen and people that get caught behind the enemy lines, like LERPs who get caught backwards and needing the extraction, that sort of thing. But we had mini birds go down. We had another helicopter that had to get torched. We had hundreds of people involved. There was an O-6 flying forward as the story, and we're all like, does this make any sense? We're all going, no. And a couple of my friends, like aviation heads, and they're like, why would this all be happening like this? And we were like, we're not. I don't know A or B, but I'm like, if I'm sitting there and I'm reading what I've been reading and seeing like some people talk about it, and I'm like, this sounds more like a Black Hawk Down thing. Oh, because this happened at Isfahan. Is that how you say it? That's where the place that Hegseth and Trump said they were going to steal the uranium. And I'm like, this is where an O-6, that's the hottest target in Iran. And you have an O-6 in a plane, Colonel. What the fuck is going on? This isn't making a lot of sense. I'm not saying it's impossible it happened. I'm not saying that. I just want to know why Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, fell for a completely fake AI picture that was obviously AI. Well, it had that subtle photorealistic high-end CGI look to it, and it was obviously AI. It wasn't like I can get some, like when I do mine, if I get the prompt right, I can get some really hyper realistic, photo DSLR like shots that come out. This wasn't it. This wasn't when you go, oh my God, is that real? No, this was obviously AI. And he retweets it. And I'm like, okay, weird. Now, what's going to be bad is what's going to be bad for dear leader is the closer we get to November, the more the Iranians have the stronger poker hand, because all they have to do is stalemate this. What are we watching in Ukraine? A stalemate. What are you watching in Korea? A stalemate. Is a stalemate possible? Oh, hell yes. We're watching a couple of them live. Okay. He gets stuck in a stalemate, or he walks away and the strait ends up in the Iranians' hands. We have a global problem. Like, our allies in the Far East, will we start to declaring national emergencies because they don't have enough fuel in downstream fuel products? I haven't done. I've been watching a couple of channels really closely because I want to know more about shipping, and I want to know more about energy, specifically oil, and how we move it. Okay. And then the geostrategy, that's why I watch Zihan, the geostrategy on how this all fits into the big chessboard we call planet Earth. The picture gets ugly quick if the strait isn't opened. And if the Houthis go mental out of Yemen and close the other side down, Mashaba, I think that's called, maybe wrong, something like that, the other side, then you have a total wreck of the global economy. Okay. You have major problems across the board. Okay. Trump's plan right now, his leadership plan, stop exports and keep it all for ourselves, he say. Well, if you've also cut off Iran, you've cut off big chunks of the world from any meaningful oil shipments. And you're taking millions, if not tens of millions of barrels a day off the global market, which will do what? Cause crazy price increases of everything, because what do? Everything is based on oil still. That's why electrifications, I'm so much in favor of it. We should have electrified 20 years ago after 9/11. We should have definitely done it when we realized some of the Saudis were involved. You know, that's why I'm so pro recyclable. That's why I'm so pro mega wind. Like I said, when I was in Wailea in Hawaii on Maui, we looked off down the coast, and there's 3 big windmills. And I was asking some of the locals, I go, how do you guys feel when they put those in? He goes, oh, we love them. He goes, yeah, they're far away from everybody else where the noise really doesn't affect anybody. And we love the cheap electricity. So it's either that or pay this really super high price as a base price. And they're like, no, the only choice is importing oil and natural gas and burning it locally. And that's way too expensive. So they're like, yeah, they're here. That's what it is. And I go, is it like a political controversy here? He's like, nope, solar is no controversy. Why? The cost of electricity is so freaking high. Once you make a price of something so goddamn high, they'll replace that high thing with anything else. Now, this is the folly of Trump hating solar and wind. He's going to push oil prices because of this Iran shit sky high, and it's going to lead not just to electrification in America, because why do you want to ride this oil wave where it destroys the economy every few years? What's the cycle? Every 12 years, 10, 12 years, something happens. Oil prices spike crazy. Well, we're looking at that again. I mean, the physical price, the dated Brent price, just 2 days ago was what, 141 to 150? That's the I need it now price. The futures price is over 100. Yeah. Do you think anybody's going to be driving a non-electric car in Japan in 10 years? Not a chance. Trump just single-handedly, by his hate of solar and wind and renewables and dragging his feet on real power policy, he's just guaranteed the electrification of the Western world. Just realize that. Because if this is a true stalemate, there's no alternative. You have to get off the energy heroin. Okay. Well, I'll let you guys go. Thank you for hanging out this whole time, listening to me chat. Thank you for your comments. Be independent, vote independent, run for local office as an independent. Please, until next time, please, 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 we're in difficult times. Help your friends understand better things. Try education first. Until next time, please think about it.